Hi, my name is Gideon, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to play fantasy football. So, fantasy football is a game where you win or lose depending on how well players do in real life. So, the way you get started is you go into the fantasy football app and you create your account. And then you'll put in your thing like your username, who you want to show up to other players. Once you've done that, you will be able to join a league. Once you join your league or create a league, you can open it or you can invite friends and that you know. If you choose to join a league, then you will be able to join and you won't have to do all the stuff that a commissioner does. Though, even though the commissioner has to do some things the others don't, they still are the ones who get to change the settings. And they also set one of the most important things, the draft time. The draft time is when and what time you want to have your fantasy draft at. When you do your fantasy draft, mainly what the fantasy draft is, it's where you choose players for your fantasy team. So every year in the NFL, there is a fantasy draft for fantasy football. There's also a real draft in real life, which is the NFL draft, where college players are chosen. In this draft, there's actual NFL players chosen. Like, if there was an NFL draft today, there would only be college players. You wouldn't be able to draft Tom Brady, but you could in a fantasy draft. So, once you've said that, or if you're not the commissioner, someone else will set it, you'll be ready for your fantasy draft. In the fantasy draft, you will choose the players you want to be on your fantasy roster. So I can choose a handful of different players throughout 15 different rounds. Normally in real life, it's only 7 or sometimes more, depending on how many players there is to draft. After you've done your fantasy draft, you should have a quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, a flex. That means you can put a running back or a receiver there, 1 kicker, a team's entire defense, and a couple bench spots. So the way you win in fantasy football is by how well players do in real life. So let's say I have Patrick Mahomes, and he does really bad in real life. I don't get very many points because he did bad. But if Tom Brady does really good and I have him on my lineup, I get a lot of points because he did really good in real life. So you set it up and players earn a certain amount of points depending on their position and what they do. For a passing touchdown, that is 6 points. For rushing, if your player rushes or catches for a touchdown, that's also 6 points. Kickers and the defense can earn points too. For the kicker, by getting extra points in field goals. Extra points 1, field goals 3, and field goals further than 50 yards are 5 points. For defenses, if they score a touchdown, that is 6 points. If they make an interception or a sack, that's 2 points. Players can also lose points if they throw an interception or a fumble. That's minus 2 points. If you're the commissioner, you will be able to switch around how many points you want. But I recommend that you leave them the same. Once you've done that, you'll be ready to play. And the way you see if you want is you go into the app, it will show all your players' points, which will add up to one score. That score is how many points you get for that week. Then it should show your opponent's score or whoever else is in the league with you. And it will show their players and their fantasy points. Whoever has the most fantasy points as the final add up will be the winner of that week. You can set how many weeks you want. Like I don't have to start my fantasy league at week 1. I can say I don't want to do week 1. I can skip week 1 and go to like week 2 or week 3. And then you also set the end time. I think you should probably do the whole season though. Once you do that, you'll be able to see your record after the end of the season. Like, let's say I win like 10 matches and lose 6. I might make the playoffs or miss it, depending on how well the other players did. So, with this, it's saying each and every team will have a final record, and then teams will make the playoffs. Then, after the playoffs, you'll have one fantasy winner for your league. That is the winner, which means in every single league, there is at least one winner every year, unless you don't happen to do your fantasy draft time. If you are able to do this, I recommend that you join several leagues. Joining several leagues gives you a higher chance to be the winner, because the more leagues, the more chances you have. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.